Hello everyone and welcome back to the Ryan Retro channel. This is massive, and I'm not just talking about my deck. Steam is now available to install and run on all of these handhelds and more. In the past, all we could do is run apps like GameHub that allow us to play our Steam games through various wrappers and translation layers that inevitably have bugs, don't sync save files properly, and have all kinds of downsides. A newer app recently came out called Game Native, which also works pretty well, but again, you can occasionally run into some bugs with things not synchronizing properly, games not launching, games not being compatible, and the experience just really isn't as good as native Steam. But that all changes today. This is Steam running through Rocknix, which is a Linux distribution. This is not emulating Steam like Game Native and Game Hub. This is straight up Steam. What you're seeing right now is Steam Big Picture mode. If I press the menu button, here is the full Steam menu. If I jump into Slay the Spire 2, then we just launch straight into Slay the Spire 2. Here is my latest run on Ascension level 5. It's perfectly cloud synced everything. I don't need to start again from the beginning like I do often with Game Hub and Game Native. This is absolutely glorious. One thing we don't have yet is we don't have the ability to bring up the Steam menu while in games, so we're going to need to either go through all of the menu options and quit out one by one. So for example, with Slay the Spire, we save and quit the game, then we come down to the main menu and quit like this. Or you can use a shortcut to quit out of the game. Check out the Rocknix website to see the corresponding shortcut for your device. Here for my Retroid Pocket 6, it is Select, Start and L1. If I hold them together for a second, it will quit straight out of the game, although here it's also quit out of the whole of Steam as well. Compared to Game Native and Game Hub, I've already seen some improvements here on Steam using Rocknix, especially in games that now work that I could never get working on Game Hub or Game Native. One of those games is Portal 2. This is a game that I really struggled to get to launch on Game Native or Game Hub. I tried so many times over the past year because I really wanted to include this in my shootout videos, and it either wouldn't load at all, or in some cases it would load like this, but it wouldn't synchronize my save files no matter what I did. Here on Rocknix, as you can see, I'm able to continue a game, no problems at all. So here we are running Portal 2, no worries, everything works great, the controls are working, the files are synchronized, it's great. But you may notice one issue with this right now, which is if I start moving around using the left stick. Take a listen to this. Those sounds are not coming from this game. Those are the sounds of navigating the Steam menu. Unfortunately, while the game is running full screen and I have full control over the game, I'm still also controlling Steam at the same time. So as I move around, I'm also navigating through the Steam menu, which is creating those sounds and could create a lot of problems. You'll see what I mean if I change this from full screen mode into windowed mode. Now you can see what's going on. We have a kind of split screen here with Portal 2 on the right hand side and Steam on the left hand side. And as you'll see, I'm actually controlling both of them at the same time. So while I'm trying to play my game and pressing various buttons, I could be doing all kinds of things in Steam without even knowing it. So this is something that unfortunately is a little bit glitched out right now. This is of course a very, very new bleeding edge release build of Rocknix, so don't expect everything to be perfect, but this is one thing to just be aware of. There are sometimes these control issues where you're controlling two things at once. This for me is one of the absolute highlights of this so far, which is Palia. Palia is a game I've played loads on my Steam Deck, and up until now I could never get working on Android. It would sometimes load into the game like this, but when I try to log in or try to join the server, it would always give me some random error about not being able to connect or something like that. It just could not connect properly running through Android. I was forced to use GeForce Now, streaming services like that to connect to this game. But here in Rocknix on my Retroid Pocket 6, it connects and it works. Here we are in Palia and it works. I'm so happy about this. Now, the eagle-eyed amongst you may notice that performance is horrible. It really doesn't work very well whatsoever. But the key thing here is it's working. On Android, I was never able to get to this stage of the game. I was never able to even get into the game. Here we are actually loading the game. When it comes to performance in general, the performance here is quite bad across the board, and that's likely mostly due to the fact that we're running this whole thing off of the SD card. The SD card in here, even though I have a super fast SanDisk Extreme card, which I always recommend, it still cannot compete with the internal SSD. So if we want to get the best performance, we're going to want to flash this to the internal storage, but that's a little bit risky. On my Steam Deck, I've dual booted SteamOS and Windows, so I can freely switch between either of them anytime. And I was able to do this because the Steam Deck has such a massive following. There are just guides everywhere to do things like this, and if anything were to go wrong, you could very easily find a way to fix it, to solve the problem, and you'd be back up and running with just plain old SteamOS anytime. It's super low risk. It's basically risk-free at this point. But for an Android device, however, if you were to install Rocknix on the internal SSD and completely wipe Android, and then later you decided you want to go back to Android, it wouldn't be so easy to find a guide to do so, and contacting companies like AYN and Retroid doesn't really go very well for most people. I find it really hard to get a reply from AYN about anything, so I would not count on them to help you out in that kind of situation. That's why for now, I would recommend only installing Rocknix onto the SSD. Just to tinker with it, play around with it, and then maybe later if you decide you want to try and flash it to the internal storage, just beware of the risks that you might lose everything, at least temporarily, until you can find a solution. I just really don't want you to brick your device, so I would say be really careful with this unless you're someone who really knows what you're doing or you just absolutely love tinkering. For now, let's just try to install Rocknix onto the SD card, and I'm going to guide you through doing that here with this Odin 2 portal. So let's now set up Rocknix and Steam on one of our Android devices. I'm going to use my Odin 2 portal here as an example. So first of all, come along to the Rocknix website, which is a fantastic website. On the left side of the screen, you can scroll down to Devices, expand the brand of what device you have, and then click on one of the supported ones. If you don't see your device listed on here, it might not be supported, so just be aware of that. If you do find your device here, click on it and you'll see lots of information all about it, all about the global hotkeys you can use to exit games, turn up the brightness, etc. And of course, how to get up and running. So I'm going to click AYN, Odin 2 Portal. Here is the device I'm going to be flashing and using. All we need to do here is make a little note of the CPU architecture code name. So this is the Qualcomm 8 Gen 2 processor, and it's also known as the SM8550. This is what we need to remember. In the description below this video, I've linked the nightly distribution releases of Rocknix. These are not the stable releases, these are the experimental nightly releases. You can see this one was only uploaded 18 hours ago, so it's actually even newer than the one I showcased on my Retroid Pocket 6, which was uploaded 3 days ago. To download the latest version, you need to come down to where it says Assets and expand the list, and you'll see this ginormous list of devices we can pick from. Our Odin 2 portal here is an SM8550. So we need to find that here in the list. And you will see there are actually 4 different items for SM8550. We're going to simply click the one at the top of the list. It should be more than 1 GB in size, and it will end with .image.gz. So let's click on that to download it. Once it's downloaded, that .image.gz file is actually a kind of zip file that we need to extract. So I'm going to simply double click on it to extract it. And we can then delete that .gz file. And now we have the image file. We need to flash this to an SD card. So take an SD card you're not already using. We're going to completely erase all the contents on this to flash Rocknix onto it. So don't use the SD card you're already using for all of your ROM files because they're all going to be wiped out. Get a new fresh SD card you're not using and let's use it for Rocknix. So we're going to take this, put it into an SD card reader and connect it to your computer. We then need to download some flashing software. I recommend Balena Etcher. This works on Windows, Linux, Mac, anything you might be using. Just click this big download button and it will take you down to the download links. Then click the corresponding download button whether you're using Windows, Mac or Linux. Install the app and open it up, and it's extremely simple to use. We're going to click the blue Flash from File button and select that image file we just extracted. You're then going to click Select Target and choose the SD card you want to flash. I only have one thing here on the list. If you see many things, just make sure it is the SD card you're meant to be flashing. Click Select, And then finally click Flash. If you're using a big SD card like me, it will warn you that the drive is really big. And are you sure it's an SD card or a USB stick? Are you sure it's not your hard drive? Yes, I'm sure. You'll need to enter your password on your device, and then it will start flashing. And this whole process should not take long at all. And just about 1 minute later, the flash has been completed. Excellent. We're now ready to take the SD card out of the computer, and we can now put it into our Android device. Now back on your Android device, you need to open up a file manager, and you will see SD card and storage. We're going to tap on SD card, scroll down until you can see the Rocknix_ABL folder, and we're going to highlight this by holding our finger down for a second, and then choose copy. Then go back to the home menu, main storage, so this is the root storage of your actual device itself, with folders like Android, download, movies, etc. And you're going to paste that folder right here. So alongside your folders like download, movies, music, you now also have Rocknix_ABL. Next, you need to go to your handheld settings. If you have an Neo device, you can access that on the right side panel. On an AYN or Retroid device, you're going to want to swipe down from the top of the screen, tap on the little settings cog down here, scroll all the way down to the bottom. On an AYN device, we have Odin settings. On Retroid, this is likely called handheld settings. Scroll all the way to the bottom again and find run script as root. Tap on that and select as script. You then want to navigate to that folder you just copied over. So on the main internal storage, come down to Rocknix ABL and select backup ABL. Run that script, which will only take a second. Then once again, run script as root, select a script. In that same folder again, we now want to choose Flash ABL. Hit the run button, and that's done. Now we're ready to restart the device, get into the Rocknix bootloader and start installing Rocknix. What we need to do is now hold the power button to bring up the power menu, and we're going to hit the restart button. And while it's restarting, we're going to hold down volume down. So let's hit the restart button and hold the volume down button. Keep it held down until it restarts into the bootloader mode. So it will look like this. As you can see, we're now in the Rocknix ABL. Because we flashed that SM8550 version, it knows that we've got a Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 device, but it doesn't actually know what device we have, so we need to tell it. In order to control this menu, you use volume up and down to cycle through options at the top here, and to select something, you press in the power button. So first of all, we're going to come to this Set Device Model setting and hit the power button. Then you'll have a list of devices here. We're going to use volume up and down to come down to Odin 2 Portal and hit the power button. Now you'll see down here it says Model AYN Odin 2 Portal. Perfect. Now if we come to switch boot mode and choose this, it will switch between Android and Linux. Here it says boot mode Android. If I were to hit start, we'd get back into Android again. But if I hit switch boot mode again, it would change from Android to Linux, which is Rocknix. So make sure it says boot mode Linux, come along to where it says start and then hit the power button. And it's now going to boot into Rocknix. Because this is the very first time booting into Rocknix, it needs to do all of the installation. So you're going to see all this tiny text scrolling down here, and you're going to want to just leave this for a little while it sets itself up. A couple of minutes later, here we are inside Rocknix. It looks great, it's snappy, and now we're ready to set up Steam. First of all, before we set up anything, we're going to need to connect to Wi-Fi. So hit the start button, come down to network settings, and move down to Wi-Fi SSID. That should then search for local networks around you, so choose your network. Then come down to Wi-Fi key, and now type in your Wi-Fi key. Now scroll all the way down to the bottom and hit back. Then it should say Wi-Fi enabled if everything's set up correctly. And you'll also see the Wi-Fi logo at the top right of the screen. Then we're going to come along to Tools and scroll down until we find Start Steam. We're going to select that. And that's now going to download, install, and set up Steam for us. The writing here is even tinier than before. It's absolutely minuscule. So we need to sit back and just let it do its thing for a while. Installation might take a while. It took a really long time for mine to set this up. But once it's finished installing, you'll be in that Steam sign-in page. You can scan the QR code using the app on your phone. So you don't need to worry about anybody getting your information. And now you should be ready to enter Steam Big Picture mode and start installing your games and, just like it said, having fun. So let's install a game to see if everything's working properly. Let's pick something nice and small like Stardew Valley so we can get up and running quickly. And in just a couple of minutes, we're into a game. We have cloud saves all synchronized and working beautifully. And everything just works straight out of the box. All the controls are automatically mapped and work perfectly. You don't need to go into any settings and map controls. It all just works. And for a small game like Stardew Valley, even running off of the SD card, the performance is great. When you do play more demanding games, you're definitely going to notice the performance dips playing off the SD card. So in the future, I do look forward to installing this on the internal storage. And let me know in the comments down below, do you want to see me bite the bullet and put this on the internal storage of one of my handhelds and turn it into a mini Steam Deck? Because I am extremely tempted to do so. Let me also show you one more cool thing. Let's quit out of the game by holding the Select, Start and L1 buttons. Now back in the main menu of Rocknix, we have a new Steam section. If we choose that, all of our games will populate here. You can see right now I only have Steam. That's because I need to update the game list. Hit the Start button, choose the first option, Game Settings, and once again the first option, Update Game Lists. Yes. Now I have Steam and Stardew Valley. We can now scrape artwork for this as well to decorate things and make things look a little bit prettier. So let's again hit Start, come down to Scraper. You can use Screen Scraper if you have an account. I don't want to log into an account right now, so I'm going to change this to one of the other options, for example, the Games DB. Move over to the right side to Options and choose what kind of image you'd like. I would like the 2D box artwork. Let's go back to the left again, come down to the bottom and hit Scrape now. At the top right of the screen, you'll see it's scraping for Steam itself, and also it will scrape for Stardew Valley. And it will tell you now that scraping is finished and we need to update the game list again to apply changes. So let's hit Start, Game Settings, Update Game Lists, yes. And now we have artwork and descriptions for everything in the list. So if you had a huge list of Steam games like this, they would all appear with artwork all ready to go. Now I've been a bit lazy with this, so some of them have shown up as the complete wrong thing. This is meant to be Palia, but it says Pole. You do need to maybe go through and just, finesse it a little bit, but once you get it all set up perfectly, you have a nice game list and you can just jump straight into a game. This is not working perfectly right now, and oftentimes it will just jump you into the whole Steam interface instead of the specific game, but you can see where it's going to be with more time and more perfecting. So that is Steam running on our handhelds, not running on top of Android or anything like that. It's just running for the first time ever. I hope this video was useful and helpful. If it was, please give me a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also join the Discord in the description below where we can chat more often. I'd love to talk to you guys daily. Check out the Discord, have a chat with me in there, and I'm sure it won't be long before we're saying hello again.